in my previous video, I said that anything that was left as a comment or pointed out to me by tagging me on one of Kizzume's videos where there was a structure that looked like woke people wanted to tear it down and not replace it with anything, not have any ideas, all you had to do was like tag me and I would tell you how woke leftist people would replace those structures, and that everything that I said would not be original thought whatsoever, and it would be something that you could find someone 20, 30, 40 years ago saying, maybe even longer than that, right? Like, nothing I'm going to say is going to be like mind explode, right? So on that video, Kizzume himself asked the question, I'm talking about things like the push to raise a biological, nuclear, or traditional family. What do feminists want to replace that with? All right, and we're using woke, feminist, humanist, DEI peoples, all of those terms, PC and critical race theory, all those terms, we're using them interchangeably here, right? So he wants feminist, but like woke was the original topic, right? But it's just, they're all moral panic buttons, right? So we're just pushing that aside. Just the person from the far left who has the purple hair maybe and has this different idea than what conservative people have. What would they want to replace these structures with? So I'm looking at this structure as the married straight couple, right? And they have 2.5 kids, one single breadwinner to the family, stay-at-home mom, a dog, and a white picket fence, and a single-family home, right? That's the vision that we're wanting to criticize and replace with other things as being okay for Americans to have, right? Okay, so first, rigid gender roles, right? As far as there being one breadwinner to the family, yeah, we'd love an economy where an entire family could live off of the earnings of just one person, but wages have been stagnant for so long since Reagan that's not possible, right? If you're raising a family, you're going to be very impoverished if you only have one breadwinner. So we want to make that okay, that there isn't one person who is bringing in the money. Also, for the reason of getting rid of financial abuse within couples, where the breadwinner makes the decisions and doesn't share decision making with the other person because they can tell their boss where to send their check, and they can manage the bank account and not have their significant other or spouse involved in decision making. Right? They could wrest control of the entire family with that device, and that's not good in all circumstances. We like people having a say. Now, some people do relinquish that control and say, like, I suck at budgeting, you need to do the budgeting. That's okay if that's their decision, but there's a lot of people out there who are being financially abused, right, in their situation, where they thought they were going to have more say in the relationship, and what turned out is that they're now saddled with the responsibilities of raising a family, and none of the ability to say what the extra money of the fungible assets of the family are being used for, because the breadwinner likes to go out and drink before he comes home, or go gamble some money away, or spend it on whatever thing that is not a collective decision-making process. It's a singular thing. So we want to get rid of that by saying it's okay for two people to have incomes in a home. So we're going to promote family structures where caregiving and work and leadership are shared, and this is regardless of gender. And we're going to normalize stay-at-home dads, working moms, dual earner incomes in households, and non-binary parenting as well. You know, that's a thing that we gotta normalize these days. It wasn't a thing when we were kids, Kizzume. You know, we're of the gray hair now, but like this is, you know, new culture, new needs. Heteronormativity is another part of that. We're looking at this ideal conservative thing as being, you know, two opposite sex people coming together to start this family as the foundation of it. So we want to recognize and celebrate LGBTQ plus families, queer parents, polyamorous relationships and families, chosen families, and we're going to call them equally valid, right? Not inferior or alternative families. We're going to call them families, right? Along with that, we want to get away from biological essentialism, where there is this, okay, you're going to have one XX chromosome person and one XY chromosome person. They're not going to use anything outside of beaver cleaver traditional definitions of sex and gender. Like, we want to get away from that and decenter biology as the foundation of what defines a real family. You don't just have a woman who has worth when she can produce kids biologically, and then as soon as she goes through menopause, she's useless, you know, just because she can't produce kids anymore. We want to affirm adoption and surrogacy and foster care and chosen kinship, all of that, make it okay and not alternative or inferior. And just make it just as legitimate as a biological connection, right? Kind of a we are the world kind of thing, like brotherhood among men kind of thing. Yeah. So back to the economic dependence of women. We want to ensure economic policies like paid parental leave, regardless of gender, affordable childcare, and wage equality. Right? We want to put those in place of that traditional conservative vision, so that we can support women's independence and autonomy, and not just have them grow up into a world where they are forced into domestic servitude in order to be considered on the right path or valid. You know, we're not just puzzle pieces floating through space looking for the opposite gender puzzle piece to connect to, and then all of a sudden we are a whole unit. We each individually are respectable entity in the world, right? And so that's what we want to replace, that idea of you're not anything until you find your person mindset. We want to replace that with you are worthy in and of yourself of respect. I think also a lot of people want to get rid of marriage as a moral requirement and de-link legal and moral worth from marital status. We want to advocate for individual autonomy and social support, whether or not somebody marries, right? If there's any laws that say that this one benefit only goes to married couples who are married in the traditional Judeo-Christian sense, then we don't like those rules. We would want to tear them down and say, no, everybody needs support on an individual level, regardless of whether they're married or not. We want to get rid of the stigma against single parents, right? A big part of the studies that say that, kids are better off in a two-parent household have to do with this wage stagnation since the Reagan era, where you can't afford to do it on your own if you're a single parent, right? It's damning your family to poverty if you don't have two incomes. And so that skews all studies about how well off a kid is going to be coming from a single parent household, when most single parent households suffer from poverty. So we want to address those issues and dismantle the stigma that single parent households are inherently broken or inferior. And we want to push for robust support systems and give them financial help, healthcare help, childcare help, and just do this for all family configurations, right? Still the married beaver cleaver ones, yeah, we're going to help them too, but to help all family units. And to do so, just stop recognizing the need as being something that is only from marriage that these needs will sprout from, right? Everyone's got these economic needs, right? So white middle class normativity, right? Like, just when I say beaver cleaver, I want to broaden the accepted image of family to include multi-generational households, where like you have 3 or 4 generations in the same house, and it's not considered wrong, right? Right now, I can understand kids not leaving the home till age 35 because economically it just does not make sense for that family. And yes, it does extend adolescence into the 20s, but it's a necessity of our economy. Our economy is fucked, right? The reason why we need childcare affordability is because we have these structures where the grandparents no longer live in the same house. So they're not watching the kids. And so the parents, if they want to leave to go to work, to bring home the bread, and all that, they have to pay to have somebody else watch their kids, because we have normalized taking the old people and ostracizing them from the family, moving very, very far away from them and not taking them with. We've normalized putting them into old folks' homes and retirement communities away from the rest of the family. And that's not right for everyone, but it is something that people get shoehorned towards in American society. We need to bring back these multi-generational households and neighborhoods, immigrant family structures, indigenous kinship models, right, where you have like a whole tribe helping out, communal living arrangements where you have multiple families in the same home, which we used to have in America, where you'd have, if one family was struggling, they could rely on the other family in the house for something like shared childcare, We just don't have that as an accepted thing in America. It's looked down upon. You're a failure if you're doing something like that. You need help. And needing help seems to be a sign of failure, where it's actually a sign of being human, right? We all need help at a certain point. Next, I want to talk about like authoritarian parental authority. And this is a running theme through a lot of my rambles over the past 2 years, is that in America, we really like our slavery. And we like models that spring forth from slavery, such as America is the only place where you have tipping the way we do. Everywhere else, they pay their employees enough to do the job, and they have gone away from tipping like the way that we do. But yeah, we Americans love that. We love the idea that a farmer can raise some kids to have some free labor because he can force his kids to work on his farm, you know. And we like this model of the single parent income, you know, where there's the stay-at-home mom and the dad controls the money, and therefore she then becomes subservient to him if she wants to buy anything nice for herself, right? We love turning other people and our own families into chattel. That's the American way, and we need to get away from that, right? And so the authoritarian parental authority, we want to attack that and shift from what I just said to family models where it's collaborative, respectful parenting. Sometimes people call this gentle parenting, where children's rights and emotional autonomy are valued and not suppressed. Let me tell you what happens when they're not valued and they end up being suppressed. Those people end up sitting across a table from me as my clients. Very often. There's a huge correlation. The ACEs study, ACES, Adverse Childhood Events Survey, right? Let me tell you, marijuana is not the gateway drug for hard drug use, right? Me as a licensed addiction counselor, I'll tell you, the gateway drug for hard drug use as an adult is whether or not your parents beat you as a kid, right? You want to make a drug abuser beat your kid, and works way better than marijuana as far as like a gateway drug to the harder drugs, right? So what I'm saying is, stop beating our kids. Stop being so authoritative in the parenting model, right? Authoritarian styles. Those are the problem. And so we want to replace that with collaborative models of parenting, gentle parenting. We want to have kids that aren't beaten. Because, you know, in that Beaver Cleaver household, you know what happens when they go to commercial break or when the show's over. You just assume, okay, Beaver got what's coming to him, you know. Yeah. Also, part of this has been reproductive control. Like, there's part of this culture war in America is that the conservative far-right people, they want to take away all forms of birth control so that if a woman finds herself pregnant, she ends up having to have the kid, even if she doesn't feel like that arrangement with that man is the best. And there's a lot of times where the man is really, really wanting the woman to have to be forced into that subservient role because she doesn't have as many options, and the woman's just like hem-hawing, like, I don't know. And when the man forces himself on her, it's a low-key rape, but she doesn't consider it that way. She doesn't seek help, and then she just becomes a mom with kids that was really forced into that role, right? Through undue pressure that you get from being an American, right? We want to like change that whole thing from happening and go, give people universal access to reproductive health care so that they don't have to have kids that they don't want at the moment. And this includes contraception and abortion and fertility treatments and comprehensive sex education, so you don't have women around that age not knowing, what time of the month they're most fertile. But the guys, they've figured it out, and so they, predate on those women to put them in that subservient role of raising their kids. And we want to make sure that starting or growing a family is a choice, not some sort of social mandate where some billionaire decided, oh, you need to pump out more kids so that I can have more, minimum wage workers at my car plant. None of that shit. We want people to be able to plan having their family so that they have it in the healthiest way. I hope this is all making sense, and that none of this is stuff that you haven't heard before. And I know because Kizzume is from the same community on the internet as me. He's sensitive to issues of religion, and part of what the woke people want to do is remove the conflation of family values with religious doctrine. Right? You can have family values and not have to be religious. And so we want to advocate for secular family policies and support systems that respect families and their religious diversity and protect non-religious families or multi-faith households where one person decides to go a different way from the rest of the people in their family. And then not have the patriarch of the family say, oh no, not in my house, you're not going to be this other thing. We want everyone to be able to pick their own destiny, their own belief structure, right? And not have to have it be the norm that if your child decides to go a different way, that they need to be ostracized, kicked out of the household and whatnot. We want families that have different belief systems under the same roof to be normalized. So those are the structures that I think that when I'm looking at Kizzume's question of when we're talking about the push to raise biological and nuclear families in conservative ideology, that's what feminists or woke people or far leftists would want to replace that with. Instead of like a one-size-fits-all cookie cutter, every house on the block looks the same, Christian, heteronormative family, a woke humanist leftist would want pluralistic, inclusive, voluntary, and supportive family structures. And these things would respect autonomy and diversity and economic justice. Hope that helps, Kizzume. Again, really long video for 2 sentences. But everybody lay off Kizzume for a while. I will not be mentioning Kizzume for a couple videos because we're not trying to pile on when somebody's clearly investigating what they want to believe, and I respect that. And I've learned from decades now on YouTube that it's best to not pile on to somebody. Just help them out where they ask for help or need help. But like, this is not a ponage fest. Dude's just exploring concepts. We can talk.